Well, Houthi rebels have vowed to retaliate after the UK and US carried out airstrikes on a number of their targets in Yemen.
Journalist Ella Whelan is still with us, and we're also joined by Major Tim Cross, former commander of British forces in Afghanistan, and James Sunderland, Conservative MP and former army officer. Do you mind if I come to you first, James? Of course, we've got you on for your military expertise, but trying to get more of a domestic picture. I tried to ask Tobias Elwood this question earlier, but the line went down just at the opposite moment. If your constituents, any of your constituents, come to you and say, why should I be worried about this conflict in the Middle East? How will it affect me? How afraid should we be? What would be your answer?
Well, good afternoon. It's very important, I think, to isolate and to compartmentalise what's happening in the Middle East. The airstrikes overnight were targeted against the Houthi rebels. It's very important that we compartmentalise that in the sense that that was in direct response to the targeting of shipping in the Red Sea. International terrorist organisations, local terrorist organisations holding the West and other operators of shipping to ransom cannot be tolerated. And therefore, this is not about the Gaza conflict in any way, shape or form. This is about something quite different.
Yeah, although they are often using the conflict in Gaza as their justification.
Sure.
Major General Tim Cross, I want to ask you about cooperation when it comes to exercises and responses in the theatre of war, because what's been going on in the Red Sea has been countered by a coalition of not just the UK and the US, but you have a French warship, Languedoc, in the region. You have the Netherlands and Bahrain also present. How does that work?
That works pretty well, is the answer. We talk about joint operations, which is in terms of the British military, Army, Air Force, Navy, and some others too. But in the context of that, therefore, this is a British joint operation because we've got naval assets there. We've got RAF flying out of Akrotiri and so on. And then in terms of international, we talk about coalition operations, which is working alongside the US and others. And quite rightly, the statements this morning highlighted the fact that this wasn't just US or indeed US and UK. There were lots of other people supporting it. We have pretty good relationships with most of the major military around the world, and the Permanent Joint Headquarters, which is based at Northwood, just out on the edge of London, conducts all sorts of linkages and cooperation exercises and so forth continually throughout the year, and we share doctrine and understanding with one another and so on. So nothing is perfect, but I've worked alongside Americans a lot, but also lots of other nations in the Balkans and Iraq, as we've done these various operations and deployments, from war fighting to peacekeeping and other things too, like humanitarian operations.
James, obviously cargo ships hitherto have been pretty reticent to go through the Suez Canal and then the Red Sea because of these attacks. I mean, after last night, they're going to be even more reticent. So we're going to have to get used to cargo ships going all around the south of Africa. I think it adds 3,000 to 5,000 miles to most journeys. Tesla, their only European manufacturing centre in Germany, have already closed down their factory because they can't afford to carry on with these new economic conditions. We're hearing that, of course, the UK economy, which has returned to growth, but could now shrink because of all this. What about the ramifications of it, both economic and industrial? These are worrying times in that respect, are they not?
Well, I think politically, the strikes overnight were the right thing to do for all the reasons that you've outlined. I mean, it's essential that trade continues throughout that region. We've got oil and oil deliveries to think about. We've got we've got international trade, global concerns. We've got so many countries with interests in that part of the world. I mean, it's complete nonsense to think that a small group of ostensibly rebels are going to hold that global network and global communications to ransom. So I think it's very important that we've dealt with it and that we deal with it. We've seen the same with the piracy with Somalia as well. So it's something that the international community cannot tolerate, which is why ostensibly, I support the Prime Minister's decision last night. It was the right thing to do, both tactically, operationally, and indeed strategically. And it also sends a clear message to Iran and others in the region that the normal activity, normal patterns of behaviour and trade must continue unhindered.
James Sunderland and Major General Tim Cross, thank you so much. Great to talk to you.